going to just take a moment here to do what we do here on Zoom and talk about how I'm going to share my screen and then ask you if you can see it just the way you know we do. So hold on just 1 second here. All righty. Okay, there we go. All right, could somebody just come off mute and let me know if you can see it?
Yes, we can see it. We can
Thank you so much. Perfect. All right. Well, I'm here to tell you a bit of a story about this Jameel Arts and Health Lab and to tell you a little bit about myself along the way. And so I'm going to start with that story. Thank you, Kunle, for setting the tone and the example for so much of this work, but also for situating yourself in your own life story. These are two beautiful pictures of my family. This is my mom and my two sisters. And I also show this picture to share with you a little bit about my experience as a third culture kid, which, you know, has to do with growing up in a culture that might be different from your parents. My mom and my dad had been had just been born during the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947. They had moved from Pakistan to India, or rather were forcibly displaced, had lived in a refugee camp for a little while before relocating to Malaysia, and then later immigrated to Canada, which is where I was born. And you can see us here in a kind of traditional Klondike Western dress, negotiating that kind of experience with the culture of origin of my family, our Sindhi culture. So, you know, I used to find this tension or this borderland a little bit different because of course, or difficult because we were of course code switching a lot. But I've come to really see it as a strength, because when you're exposed to so many cultural experiences, you have the opportunity to pick and to choose what you want to draw on in your creation of the new. And I think that our family has become very adept and very skilled at recreating home and a sense of belonging wherever we are. And I know that that's a trait that we share with many artists who can draw on their experiences to create something in the moment in response to the situation and the context that they're in. So I think I may join you there. And as an artist, I trained in theater. I was a dancer. I was in tap and jazz and ballet, but theater was really what, you know, captured my heart. So I trained as an actress for a little while in drama and in education, and became really interested in what theater was doing in the rehearsal room. So what was it doing for people who were just coming together? I could see that it was building bonds between us in a very short amount of time. It was incredibly joyful. And of course, for myself, it gave me a chance to play many roles that I otherwise might not play in my everyday life. And, you know, as a result, be able to transfer some of the character qualities of certain roles, like Ophelia here. This is an Indian adaptation of Hamlet, where I played the role of Ophelia, but in this version, it was Kamla. I could take character traits from Kamla and bring them over into my everyday life. So drama therapy really being about that exposure to drama and what we draw from theatrical experience in our everyday lives. And that really moved me into looking at applied and social benefits of theater. So this is a picture of a moment in Bangalore, India, where I had brought a group of theater students, applied theater students and drama therapy students, to work with the Center for Social Action at Christ Church College in Bangalore. And together we created theater in response to what communities around us were dealing with at the time. And in that moment in 2006, it was really about a water shortage and a water crisis, which very sadly is, of course, still a very prevalent issue, and one that has a whole sequelae of health concerns attached to it. And one that we are likely going to see a lot more of. But here you see our group in the center having created a piece of a moment, an image responding to the water crisis. And you can see that what the theater does in this moment is it convenes a circle of attention. So the performance, in fact, is not only what's going on in the center, it's also what's going on in the outer ring. And this got me really curious about the social impact, the health impacts of theater making in a broader sphere, and not only physical and mental and social, but also the ecological impacts of the arts that we create. What does it allow us to do Who does it allow us to convene? What kinds of conversations can be catalyzed there? Artists are particularly good at catalyzing conversations. And I'm also, actually, I'll come back to this picture a little bit later, but I'll keep going for now. So in this present moment, I direct a program in drama therapy at New York University. I've been collaborating on this Jameel Arts and Health Lab, which was established with the WHO, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in just a moment. And we've been convening a number of different interesting conversations in cities and in countries around the world. Now, this work has been going on for a long time, and some of you are very familiar with that. You've been immersed in it. You know that the relationship between the arts and medicine is not new. However, I would say that it was given greater visibility, and there was a milestone event with the publication of the 2019 report from the WHO looking at the evidence base for the health benefits of the arts. Of course, there were publications before this and practice well before this in our Indigenous communities, in our communities of practice in the arts and arts therapies and applied arts, but this raised it to the platform of a global health policy body, which has really, I think, spurred the movement on further. And since then, there have been a plethora of other evidence syntheses and other efforts at examining the evidence base in this area. These are just snapshots of just a few of the scoping reviews and evidence syntheses coming from around the world, from the US, from Nigeria, from Singapore, from across the European Union. And again, certainly not exhaustive. These are just a few that came out in the last 3 years. So you can see that there is a significant interest all around the world. And what these reports demonstrate, as has already been mentioned, is that when we're talking about the arts and medicine and the relationship between the arts and health, we're talking about arts in daily life and the way that we use it. We're talking about artists working in health and care settings. We're looking at neuroaesthetics or empirical aesthetics and the neurological correlates of arts experience or aesthetic experience. We're talking about the creative arts therapies. So we're talking about a very wide range of practices that might find themselves in this arena, in this relationship or intersection of the arts and health or arts and medicine. And what these reports have also shown us is that there are many areas where the arts can make a measurable impact. These are just a few of them that we pulled out in looking at some of these reports, the 2019 report and some of the other evidence syntheses that have come out since. And it's not exhaustive, but you can see here just some of the areas where we know that the arts can make a measurable impact. The evidence is in fact there, and now it is up to us to think about ways in which we can implement that evidence and act on that evidence. And of course, continue to test new interventions that are being developed in each of your own country contexts. The 2019 report, I felt, also offered us a really useful theoretical model of change. Some of you may have seen this before, but I'll add it here in case you have not. And here you see that arts activities like participatory arts, visual arts, dance, theater, literature, creative arts therapies, musical engagement. I would say think about arts activities from the general to the targeted, from the receptive to the active, witnessing a performance versus participating in the performance. We're talking about a host of different arts activities that map onto psychological, behavioral, and social processes like emotional regulation or social interaction that then lead to improved health and well-being, either by reducing illness or preventing illness, or by actually enabling us to cope better with the conditions that we are living with. So treatment and management. So we were asking ourselves, how do we, when I say we, I mean, I think the global we, but I also think a few colleagues, we'd been asking ourselves about how we might support this movement, given the many different practices, given the fact that much of the research that we have often looks like pilot studies with very low participant numbers. How do we move this field forward and advance research in this area, as well as implementation. And that led to the founding of the Jameel Arts and Health Lab. This is a picture of the signing of the documents that initially founded this lab. This was in Copenhagen late last year. And then we held a similar event in New York earlier this year in February to found the Jameel Arts and Health Lab. As a collaboration between New York University, the World Health Organization, Culture Runners, and Community Jameel. This is just a moment from our launch that I'll share with you because it's only 2 minutes long. So as Kunle was saying earlier, this isn't about celebrating any one person. It's about celebrating a network of fellows, a network of people, a network of practitioners and labs around the world who are engaged in research and practice and policy advocacy in this area. And what we see our lab doing is helping to connect the dots where possible so that the wonderful practice that is taking place can be examined, can be researched, and then that evidence could be translated into policy so that, or rather forums where that evidence can be shared in order to be taken up by member states around the world. Some of the research that we're engaging in now involves a 3-country study on music and motherhood and the ways in which group singing can effectively lower rates of postnatal or postpartum depression. This is a study that's taking place across Denmark, Italy, and Romania. Another study looking at the role of visual arts in hospitals and care settings. This is a study that we're looking at across Nigeria and the UK and New York, and we may have some other partners coming on board with that one as well. My thanks to Kunle for facilitating the Nigeria component of this, and Oyinda and others in Nigeria who just made our recent visit there so incredible. And I come back to this picture here again because another area that we're looking at is, you know, is there a code of ethics that guides our work as artists and arts practitioners when working in situations where care is needed? This is a study that I know Mr. Kunle is also involved in, together with myself and several others. And we're in fact holding a global consultation on this question of what are the ethical guidelines that you keep in mind as an artist working in situations where care is needed. So I'm just going to put in the chat our community consultation form and invite you to fill that out if you wouldn't mind before tomorrow, if you have time, because we are trying to gather as many responses from around the world about this question, both about what ethical guidelines guide you as an artist, but also an artist or arts and health practitioner, but also what kind of care is needed for artists in this work? What sustains creative practice? So let's continue here. So one of the other exciting things that we're working on at the moment is a collaboration with The Lancet, which is the highest ranking medical journal we have at the moment, looking at the health benefits of the art. This is a global health series that we are proceeding with this year on the health benefits of the arts, so that you can really see there is a tangible interest, a greater visibility around this work, and you are really coming into this fellowship at the right time. There are a number of other projects that I could share with you. What I will just say with this slide is we've been working also on arts and post-conflict and looking at interesting cultural and technological partnerships to help to share the message of that research. So here, the Yazidi Cultural Archives is a project that we have done with the Yazidi community of women survivors of the genocide perpetrated by Daesh. And we'd worked with Google Arts and Culture as well as with the UN to share paintings, the work coming out of a participatory photography and cultural archiving process, photography, visual art, and an archiving process. And you can actually see the archive on the Google Arts and Culture website on the UN homepage. You'll see films and testimonies and artworks from the women who participated in this project with us. We've also, as you saw from the video, trying to unite research, policy, and practice has also involved sharing this work through very high-profile social events or high-profile cultural events where we can share the story of the arts and health, sometimes not even through sharing research presentations, but by sharing the arts itself under the auspices of the arts and health. This is a concert that we co-produced for the WHO's 75th birthday in Geneva this past World Health Day in April. And, you know, I will just say it was a real testament to what can happen when you put the arts first, because we didn't share examples of research. We didn't share research in the concert itself, but it spurned so many conversations. It sparked so many conversations, I should say, after the concert, and also was followed by the inauguration of two ambassadors in the area of arts and health for the WHO, the two sopranos that you see in the bottom left, Pretty Ende and Renee Fleming. This is an example of a policy document that I had the pleasure of working on that we intend to create more of. And this is a policy document. It's a brief that speaks to the research in the area of arts and forcible displacement and how the arts can improve mental health in this area. It's a short document that can effectively communicate to decision makers about the benefits of the arts in this area and why they should continue or consider investing or prioritizing access to the arts, culture, and arts practices. We have many other events that we are engaged in. This is a wonderful opportunity here to speak with all of you. We will be speaking we have several events that we have put together for the UN General Assembly as side events in New York coming up next month. You had a little preview of that Lancet Global Series announcement, but we'll be doing a larger announcement in September. And then Global South Arts and Health Week, which I imagine Kunle will be sharing something about taking place in Cairo, and we will be moving through the rest of the year, ending with work that we are developing in line for COP28, because climate change is one of the major, if not the major, health crisis facing us today. And we're interested in the role of the arts, of artists and cultural organizations in responding to the health impacts of climate change. So that's a little bit of what we're up to this year, and the story continues. I'm ending on this painting, which was by Sudanese artist El-Migdad Al-Daheri, who joined us for one of the activations that we did in New York. He actually painted this painting before the pandemic, and you can just see how prescient it is, right? Tying in both ecological concerns and health concerns that are connected to it. It's often been the artist that has been a barometer and, you know, has been the one who has had the sensitivity to know what's coming next, and giving us, just like that circle in that image from India, convening a circle of attention around